It took a little longer than anticipated, but at long last, the lawn in front of the Hampton Inn and Suites in Manchester is being prepared for a brew pub and restaurant. Work began in late November as bulldozers and other construction equipment began to move the dirt around to allow construction to start. When finished, which is estimated to be sometime in the early fall of 2025, the roughly $8 million, 8,700 square foot building will be open to fill a gap in Manchester's hospitality lineup, a unique brew pub with its own specialty beer. When the Hampton Inn was originally proposed more than 10 years ago, this site was considered for retail establishments, but changes in that economic sector prompted a move to a brew pub. We spoke with Kevin Molini, the president of Molini Hospitality, which owns the Hampton Inn and Suites, to learn more.
So basically, we're building an 8,700 square foot building that will house a brewery, which will include a brew room and a tap room. And we'll have, I think, some fairly sufficient brewing capacity in about a 2,400 square foot brew room, and the remainder will be a tap room, kitchen, and then there are two patios, so one to the south and then there'll be one to the north. The north is going to be more of a lawn where we can put Adirondack chairs out there and put some yard games out, and just have it be one of the additional kind of gathering spaces. So we'll have a full kitchen there, and the idea is to do sort of an elevated pub fare, family friendly style menu. So our plan is to have something for everybody, not overly complicated, but just good hearty food to go along with the great beer that we're hoping to produce. So we'll have our own beer, and so this is one of the things that kind of drove us in the thought process, was that Manchester doesn't have a brewery to call its own, and so we always felt like it would be perfect to have one. There aren't too many that are too close to Manchester, but we always felt like if we were going to put something like this together, we had to have the right ingredients in place to produce great beer that Manchester could call its own. We've been talking about this, the need for something like this, really from day one. I mean, the hotel's been open over 7 years now, and I remember having this conversation with my father when he was still alive. We talked about how great it would be to have something like this to represent Manchester. I think that really during COVID was when I started to just dive into what it would take to get a brewery built in Manchester. And I had heard, things about the difficulties regarding permitting, regarding water treatment, wastewater treatment, and really, when you break all of those things down, there are things to overcome, I think, on every level. But I think during COVID, we all seemed to have time on our hands, at home, and I just started to really dive into, the particulars and how to put a plan together to get something like this launched. So it's been a few years. We've gone through a couple of design iterations as well, and I think we've arrived at what I think is a really good plan. And we're just, I really wanted to get in the ground this summer, but again, things just, with a project like this, there are certain things that just, are out of your control, and you try to kind of pull everything together as best you can. But we're there now. So
The town permits and Act 250 permits were issued by 2023. Wastewater issues were among the ones that the town was most concerned about, said Planning and Zoning Administrator Peter Brabazon.
It's always been the intent to put something in that spot there. And I think everyone was elated when they discovered that he was considering a brew pub. So I think it's going to add a lot of animation to the town. It's going to give people a chance to walk all over. And that's where the downsides are, what happens with parking, and I think he's adjusted that pretty well. But younger generations look forward to having a place to have a...
It's exciting.
There's going to be something to do in Manchester after dark.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, that's always been kind of an area we didn't really excel at. I know part of the considerations was with the water and sewer is that when they download some of the wastewater, it has to be at a certain pH, a certain level of acceptability for it to get introduced into the wastewater system. So that was a bit of a hiccup too with
Interesting,
system.
yeah. But there were no like zoning questions or any kind of issue around the size of it?
Basically, he addressed all the the setbacks and the traffic flows and all that type of thing. Exterior lighting, architectural details, so on and so forth. There was a couple of different iterations of this, and I think they were budgetary, but it went through the process of public hearings, it went through the process of the Design Advisory Board weighing in on the look and feel of the property. So the public had the opportunity at that point in time to raise any issues or concerns that they had.
But it will also be a boost to the town's nightlife scene, noted Elias Schroeder, the assistant zoning administrator. So this fits into the overall town plan, I guess, right? And
overall, it does. It brings a lot of things business-wise to the community.
Vitality for the downtown, the town center. Everything's walking, and I think it's going to be a good project.
And it checks a lot of boxes that way.
Yeah, there you go. There's not a lot in southern Vermont. You're putting one on the board.
yeah.
We want to attract the younger crowd, so we have to have some kind of activity after hours. Right?
Right. Who knew?
Yeah, bring people back down after skiing.
Yeah, right.
So they don't hang out up there. They come back down and go to the brewery.
Construction is expected to continue throughout the winter to help meet the hoped-for grand opening later in 2025. For the GNAT-TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.